Welcome to It Can Get Better Than This. I'm Heather Hodge,
And I'm Dr. Cindy Byler.
and today we are going to be talking about stretchy
Stretchy
braids.
brain.
Ooh.
This is one of my favorite topics, maybe my favorite topic. I geek out on brain science, and it is a passion and a hobby and part of my career. So I'm excited about this, and I'm wearing my really cool brain shirt
That
that I
is a
got
cool
on
brain
Etsy.
shirt.
There's so much progress that's been made in neurology over the last 20 years. It's incredible. Um, it's very helpful and interesting to see how our brain works because it affects everything that we do. So today I'd like to lay a foundational piece that we will continue to talk about throughout our entire time together, because how our brain functions and how we can help it function better is a key.
It's like a key component.
That's the word. Is a key component to psychology and a
Underst-
better life.
Understanding why we do what we do.
Yes.
It's like we're reading the manual.
We're reading the manual.
I never
knowing
do
how
that.
Our brain works. I do. So I like it better when it's like very short. But it was once believed that brains developed until our fifth birthday, and then we were just kind of stuck with what we had by our fifth birthday.
Ooh.
Like, thank goodness that doesn't happen. But in the last, well, it's been probably a couple decades or so, neuroscientists discovered that our brains have what is called plasticity. And that means that our brains can change throughout our entire lives. So you're not stuck with your 5-year-old brain. Isn't that great news?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So our brains can change when we're 99 years old if we live that long.
Wow.
It is a matter of working with our brains, and it really helps to understand our brains so that we can work with that plasticity. Say that 3 times fast,
Oof.
and make our lives better just by understanding how we can change our brains. So there's 2 basic pieces of information. Number 1 is neuropathways.
Yeah.
And this is a great image of neuropathways in your brains. They look like a spider web. Our brains have over 100 billion neurons. Each neuron connects to other neurons, which is what you're seeing in this picture. Usually they connect to 1 to 2,000 others. So our brains are extremely complicated. So if somebody's told you're a complicated person, well, join the club. We all are.
That's good. That's really good.
So neurons are information processes in our brain. They're different sizes and shapes, and they do different jobs depending on where they're located and what they're connected to.
Like what part of the brain they're in?
Yes.
Okay.
So they link together to send information from one neuron to the next, and they create networks, which is what you're seeing in this neuropathway image. Our neurons are responsible, and how they connect together are responsible for all of our thoughts, sensations, feelings, and actions. There's a gap between the neurons, so they are not physically connected, which is really not really an important point, but I just think it's interesting. There's no physical connection between them. That gap is called a synapse, and so information is being sent electronically throughout your brain.
Oh, that's cool. So like electronic impulses going from one to the
Yes,
other.
isn't that
That's
cool?
cool. Yeah.
I think that's real. An average neuron forms approximately 1,000 to 10,000 synapses with other neurons. They can form new ones, so they can form new connections throughout your whole life. And what's just as important is that they can strengthen the ones that have already formed. So the more they connect, the more chemicals that flow through them, the stronger and deeper that connection gets.
Oh wow. So it's like digging a path or building a road.
Mhm.
Like you do it over and over and over
Yeah.
again. That's
Some
cool.
neuroscientists or people in other parts of the field call them highways in your brain. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. I just recently heard somebody say that, and I would give them credit, but I can't remember who it
And
is.
just like 95, you're always working on yourself.
Right. I-95 is the highway closest to us. And what happens is it forms a web, as you could see in the picture, throughout your brain, so that you can think or do something. So that the more that you think or do something a certain way, the deeper and stronger that that pathway gets.
Okay, so that's how like habits form, expectations form.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's probably why you have the same argument with your spouse
That's
every time. It's the
right.
same. If
It's the
you've
same.
noticed, it is the
You
same.
same way. Yep. This, even if it's about something a little bit different, it's you or your child. You have the same flow of information going back and forth, the same behavior patterns. It's why you can get up in the morning and brush your teeth and get ready for work, and you don't even remember that you did it.
Yeah.
Or you drive home from work the same way every day. You have enough neuropathways that you can just do it without
That's
thinking about
there
it.
was a TikTok trend that was really funny that these parents would shout to their toddler something from across the room where you couldn't see the toddler, and they'd be like I'm going to make lunch, and then they would mouth whatever they knew the kid was about to say.
That's funny. Okay, so when brain cells communicate frequently, the connection between them strengthens, like I said, and the messages travel the same pathway in the brain over and over again, and it also transmits faster and faster. So that's how when you learn how to play an instrument like the piano, you're training your neural pathways and you're connected to your fingers to do the same thing, and you can go faster and faster, and you that's how you learn.
So it's not muscle memory, it's brain it's still brain
It's
memory.
brain memory too. Yes,
That's
isn't
oh it
that
might be,
cool?
that's cool. That is really. That's not cool. It's electric. Sorry.
So the more that you train yourself to react differently to an emotion, the more those neural pathways will train your brain to change the way that you're reacting. And it causes the change to be a natural response, just like our habits, so that somebody's angry and you've trained yourself not to let your mirror neurons, that we'll talk about in another episode, react to them, the easier it is to just, it's just part of your life that you just don't react to somebody's anger. That
Mhm.
takes a lot of work and a lot of conscious thought and reaction time doing it. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
Is that how therapists typically work to help alleviate things like triggers and PTSD and
Yes.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Reacting to them differently over and over again. A lot of therapists use a technique called EMDR, and it helps the brain to reprocess the triggering event or experience so that it gets unlocked from the part of your brain that's just locking it down. So that helps as well. And then to be able to um, think differently about it and react to it differently
Oh wow.
on the second part of that. So one of the one of the experiences that a lot of people have had, if your parents argued right before you went on a trip, then
Yeah.
you might start getting anxious or feel like you need to start an argument before you leave and not even know why. But the anxiety starts going, and your parents did this, or you and your spouse did this when you were younger for years, or you've always done that. That's our neural pathways that work there too. So it's important to pay attention to, why am I reacting to things like this? And often it's because of things that have happened in our lives that happened over and over again, that this is why we react, because those highways were laid in our brain.
That's probably why when you're trying to change something about yourself, like reacting negatively, it takes a lot longer than you'd think it would take to
Yes,
train out of it.
right.
Like it's your first reaction, and you probably like I wouldn't know half the time that I'm doing something until I've really worked on it for a few
Hmm.
months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes a lot of work and time to reverse these things that are so ingrained in your brain, but it's so worth it when you have a better quality of relationships and your life is better and your stress calms down, so you're not so anxious or stressed all the time about things that you never really thought about. Why am I so stressed about this? Well, because this and this and this happened, and this is the way it's always gone.
Oh yeah, for me it's financial struggles. Whenever I have a financial issue, I have to remind myself, okay, this is what happened years ago, but this is not what happens
Yes,
now.
yes. A
And
lot of people have that trigger.
I used to
Yes.
I struggled financially in my early 20s, and as I got older, even now I still struggle paying. We have the money in the bank, but paying the bills is
Mm-hmm.
like I need someone to sit down and hold my hand like a kindergarten teacher, like sit down and pay let's sit down and pay your bills.
It's going to be
The money's
okay.
in the bank.
Right.
You're going to be fine afterwards. We just have to remember to pay them. We have to do it right now.
Right.
And Even watching like movies with money issues and stuff still triggers me hard.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Yes. And finances are security.
yeah.
So that is an even bigger stronghold in our brains and psychologically.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
definitely.
I'm sure anything that triggers security is a pretty big stronghold.
Yeah, definitely. So let me show you a little bit about how this works in your brain a little bit more. So this is very, very brain, maybe 101, maybe even less than that.
Pretty basic
This
stuff.
is very basic.
Okay.
And you can argue with me online if you want about this, but I'm not going to. This is just very basic. There's three parts to your brain. There's a lot of parts to your brain, but there's three areas in your brain. The first one is your R complex, which is in the back, like around your brainstem area. And that is your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's your instinctive brain. And animals have this as well. And then there's the limbic system. And that is, in again, very basic general terms, the emotional part of your brain. This is where you get your feelings from. Prefrontal cortex is the thinking part of your brain.
It's your like logic, reasoning, skill development, and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
Okay.
right, exactly. So it's great when all three of these are parts of your brain are balanced and working together and the chemicals are going through them all together at the right rates, but that's not really how life works. So when you feel fear or anxiety, a strong negative emotion, or actually even a strong positive emotion, everything gets out of kilter. So what happens is the chemicals are not going through to your brain at the right rates equally. When you are, we'll take anger. If you're really angry at somebody, all of a sudden you realize that you can't think right and you say things that you wouldn't normally say. And you really, if you really think about it, you're not really reasoning. It's because more of the chemicals are going towards your limbic system and your R complex, your instinctive parts of your brain and your emotional parts of the brain, and not necessarily going as much to your prefrontal cortex where you're thinking.
Yeah.
So that's why we do and say things when we're angry or fearful that we normally would not do or say.
Yeah. A
And
lot of people turn into whole different people when they're
yes,
angry.
yeah, like almost like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a seesaw going on in your brain with your emotions. And when anger goes up, compassion goes down. When anxiety goes down, then your peace goes up. When fear goes up, love and trust go down. Does that make sense? The seesaw
Hmm.
in your brain. So the trick is about balancing your brain and keeping your brain balanced. And this is all just foundational pieces. We're not going to solve all these issues today, but this is just laying um,
Some basic work to help you understand how your brain
yeah.
works. Okay.
There's a Native American story that I love to illustrate this point. We're going to do a little story.
Oh, yeah. I love
Once
stories.
upon a time, a grandfather was teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside of me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is angry. He is enviable. That's not a word. He is, we'll just say jealous. He is sorrowful. He is full of false pride and lies and resentment. He continued, the other one is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, humility, serenity, kindness, empathy, generosity, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on in you, too, and inside every other person. The grandson thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The grandfather simply replied, the one you feed. And that's so powerful because the more that you feed fear or that you feed anger, the deeper those pathways are etched in your brain, just solidifying that fear or that anger for that situation over and over again. The more that you feed love and compassion and kindness, the deeper those pathways become in your brain. So it depends on which wolf you feed. And that is I was going to say that's a daily choice, but that's sometimes a minute by minute choice about which wolf we're going to feed. Because it's not always feelings about our experiences or other people. Sometimes it's the wolf that we're feeding about ourselves inside too. Are we feeding things that are positive about ourselves? Or are we feeding the wolf that's just feeding us things that tear down our self esteem and tear down our own peace and build up our anger? So
Yeah.
it's which wolf you're going to feed. You can reroute your neural pathways and improve how you process thoughts and emotions and develop healthier relationship skills. And through that, you can develop stronger communication skills and empathy. And that is a lot more of what we're going to be talking about in the coming episodes and seasons as we continue this podcast, so that you can work on changing your neural pathways so that you can respond in situations that will become habit. You can live and speak in ways that are more of the better you that you want to become and be for the rest of your life. It just takes time and conscious effort. It takes a lot of time and conscious effort. And we're going to work on those things in the coming seasons.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to continue on with this podcast. Thank you for listening and subscribing. We cannot wait to keep going on this journey with you. Remember, pay attention to which wolf you're feeding.
Have a great week.